They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and I be holding a grudge to those so bold to give a cold shoulder to global. A cold shoulder to global is what was foretold. EOS not a threat but a promise, set to demolish the Western player base, waiting for better days when CN would treat us all equal. I have a dream that one day a mobile game releases and we could all reap the fruits of its looms, but today the cycle resumes. So, armed with a pen in my quiver, we investigate, we speculate. Will Neo Artifacts ever deliver? And to that I say, I don't f***ing know, bruh. They say don't judge a book by its cover, but in the world of gaming, that's precisely what must be done. So what does a cover of Neo Artifacts look like? It's absolutely stunning. That's its hook. But more than that, it's the MO. The world and story of the game is art personified, and it makes this very clear with the global launch event referencing Van Gogh's Starry Night and Sunflower. Now, is it the most surface level reference to art with a capital A?
Bullshit. Bullshit. Derivative.
Yes, but it has to be to capture that coveted Western wallet. The premise is steeped in art. You're a curator collecting anthropomorphized art pieces called artifactors, going about vanquishing the bad ones set forth by some sort of distortion in the world. These are the clothes the premise wears, but stripped bare, it's a concept we've come across plenty of times. Commander, director, lord, teaming up with the goodies and battle the baddies. It conveys a fresh take while reiterating the standard, but it's a confusing remix if I'm going to be extra autistic about it, because at a certain point, style has to contend with substance, and the substance is bewildering to say the least. To capture the global market, the game's strategy has been to lower the gacha rates from CN's 2.5 base rate to 1.60, replace the spark system in favor of a 50-50 and do away with soft pity, require special currency to pull on event banners, that's extra shitty, restrict team building to an elemental advantage system. Now stick with me. What could go wrong? Well, normally I would brush this off because the first 3 points are mostly meaningless if you're in it for the gameplay, but in this case, Neo Artifacts isn't gameplay driven. It isn't story driven. We'll get to that later. It's clear what the focus is here. It's the characters. Adhere to the old adage, follow the money. And in this game, it's fairly obvious the budget's allocated to the characters and aesthetics, and they absolutely nail it from the splash art to the UI and soundtrack. Neo Artifacts baits you with the promise of a gorgeous garden, so why limit our seeds? Refer to the old adage. And who I really feel bad for are the artists who worked on designing these characters. Obvious incentive here with the L2D getting significant upgrades as they bloom. They really make you want to build them just on looks alone, yet the financial forecast of the game tells us we may be here for a good time, not a long time. And the only drawback with these characters, in my opinion, is their naming conventions. I absolutely hated when Pokemon started becoming Digimon, call me a fossil, but the way my eyes rolled so far back into my head when they started naming them Screamtail and Fluttermane, Raging Bait, Ironing Board, Speeding Ticket, well, it's the same thing here. Say hello to Bat Peach Vase and Salt Production Brick, literally Bronze Fridge. I'll never get on board with these names, but I absolutely salute the art direction. So on to the game itself. We could boil it down to this. If you're a fan of tactical grid-based RPGs, then you could consider this a solid entry for the mobile games you keep in your back pocket to scratch that itch. While there are superior ones out there like Sword of Convallaria, GFL2, and Mecharashi, Neo Artifacts hits a sweet spot that respects your time as far as progression is concerned. That's not to say the other games don't, but you do have to put in the work, which is what makes them so robust and layered, but unlocking content in Neo Artifacts is pretty damn broken. If you're willing to spend some pull currency wisely and make powerful friends in-game, you can level any characters you want and unlock hard farming stages. See this video for the sauce. And before you know it, the game turns into a laid-back character gardening sim with gameplay in the background. This is even more evident when you realize character progression isn't just about levels, which, yes, is the most important aspect, but to make your characters really blossom, a lot of patience is needed because their skill levels are locked behind an affinity bonding system, and you simply don't feed your units mats to unlock these abilities. While that is one method, those mats are finite. You could put them in your sweep teams when farming and build affinity through battles, but stamina has a cost. You gotta put them to work in your headquarters. These sectors are where passive production presides to pick up progression mats. You assign units in the office, workshop, dorm, and gallery, and while they put in their work shifts, they gain affinity points, which increases bond levels, amplifying skills. So in that sense, the game forces you to learn some patience. What can we say about the story? I can't say anything. We all love when the story and gameplay mesh to give us a sense of immersion and gripping metaphor, RIP Silver and Blood, but I can't tell with this one. I'm sure it probably does, but there are a few roadblocks that keep this part of the game guarded. Firstly, the localization. It's still not all the way there yet. The translations don't quite connect, and if you dare read, get ready for some eye-crossing exposition because the prose is just too flowery to comprehend, while at other times, insanely simple and nonsensical. Take this dialogue for example.
I get it. You're a custom export wallpaper, and business is the only thing that gets you excited.
Ew. I'm not talking postmodernist mumbo-jumbo, but more like an attempt to make everything sound as beautiful and deep as possible while becoming a tangled jungle of adjectives and metaphors. And because of that, it also reads like a kiddie pool under the guise of an ocean. Also, no voice acting nor animation, so the cinematics aren't quite as immersive, which is the perfect metaphor for us being forced into gazing at something pretty but shallow. While there are challenging game modes like intensive drills and trials, Neo Artifact shines in the turn brain off modes. The global version makes that clear by giving us an elemental advantage system like Persona, so team building isn't as reliant on skills and abilities to solve problems, but just rock beat scissor to an extent. But you want to know where this game goes really hard? It's the mini-games. In your tea room, you can play this maze plate game, Connect 4, and there's this highly addicting builder game where you move pieces on an active grid to make a match and turn into more complex forms. Maybe it's me and I haven't come across this type of puzzle game before, but I appreciate how it forced my brain to think in a way it hasn't before, and it's satisfying as f***. As far as story mode, it's standard with some extra side stages, nothing to write home about, but by far the most annoying game mode is Arena. The PvE is ridiculous because it's auto battle and you have to sit through the whole match. What else? The AI is horrendous. It's inefficient with not just bursting at every opportunity, but even sequencing and movement choices so bad. So you'll find your units not utilizing every square to make up space on this large map you need to cross to get to the enemy, and then the player etiquette is non-existent. This is a PSA to everyone new to these type of game modes, whatever you play. Set your defensive unit as the lowest level character you have and place that unit solo on the map. No one gets rewards for placing your try-hard max level teams to defend. You're just wasting everyone's time trying to do dailies. So all in all, if you're looking for an opinion, do I recommend this game? The answer is, why not? It's a fun time killer, nothing to get sweaty over, no one to compete with, and the min-max build is satisfying. The progression system's built for efficiency and the art direction's gorgeous, but don't dive in expecting anything. Well, actually diving isn't advisable since the content is pretty shallow, you might break something. And so you gotta ask, who is this game for exactly? Well, it's for the art heads out there, duh, but maybe not so much for the art appreciation 101s, but even if you've imagined dipping your toe into this ridiculous world of money laundering and abstract assholery, makes you wonder. They got Van Gogh's likeness for the launch event, but how deep can they go, or will they go? Do the Rothkos bleed in? The Kusamas or Tyrells, or even a Banksy would be hilarious, or are we staying at the Monets, Cezannes, Manets, and Picasso possibly? Time will tell. And the biggest copium I can offer for anyone balls deep in this game is that this little game called Morrowind also started off horribly, translated with AI, but pulled a little engine that could. Now the question is, does Neo Artifacts have it in them? Well, the devs gotta dig way deeper if they want to establish stronger roots, but for a tactical RPG, it is a nice entry to combat the ever-growing open-world market, especially if a certain game called Genesis War was on your radar. Holy Emblem, what a letdown. Also, the comparison with CN isn't worth getting salty over, either you enjoy it or you don't, and Neo Artifacts is easily enjoyable, especially if you know what you're getting into. So with all that being said, keep pushing those dailies. Oh, cringe, I'm so sorry, I'll come up with something better.